Alright, so here we are on part 2 of the warehouse build for the Seattle-based Milwaukee Road layout. As you can see, there's not a lot done because I ran into a couple of problems. One being space for the truck docks. I know this is a shorter trailer, but if there was a longer trailer parking up to the dock, the space that was going to be used, or if I had followed the directions on the actual build, it wouldn't give me any space for the truck docks. So I have to modify it a little bit, which is unfortunate because I actually did want to follow the directions on this one. I actually did like the way the structure looked when I purchased it. But really you can see that all the parts are here. I'll put them where you can see them. It's really a basic kit. There's not a whole lot to it. These are dock riser pieces. There's only 4 of those. These are small awning roofs that go over the docks. Let me see if you can see them there. And then there's the little dock roof brackets to hold the dock roof up. What I'll have left over is these 2 pieces, 2 little wall pieces, and it actually says in the instructions that these are optional anyway, and these 2 over here. But that's the basic shape of how the building is going to look. What I'm going to do to speed things up is I'm going to go ahead and cut away, and when I come back I will have all of the little sprues cleaned up. You can see there's some overflash where the sprues were connected. I'm going to go ahead and clean up all the parts and pieces, and we'll get started with the build. Okay, so I've cleaned off all of the immediate pieces that I'm going to need to build the basic structure. I actually don't need the dock risers or the awning roofs yet, but I'm going to go ahead and get started with 2 of the main walls. The way I want to build it is to have one wall coming off of one side like so. The best way to do that would be to probably shave off this little beveled piece here on the edge. There's a piece up here as well. I don't know if you can see that real well, but I'll have to shave that off to try and fit this piece flush with it, and I'll see how that goes. It actually looks like it'll work fairly well, so I'll go ahead and do that right now. Just taking my X-Acto knife and running it along. It's going to be different for everyone. When you do something like this, a lot of people like to cut on their table flat. I like to actually hold it tight up against my body so I can maneuver the X-Acto knife in a firm but steady way. That way, my hand doesn't shake or anything, and then I'll slip and cut a finger, which I have done before also. Okay, so I've got it shaved off. I'm going to test fit it. It's not, I didn't file it yet. I'm going to probably run a rasp file on it first. But I want to test fit it and see how it looks. And I'm going to use this dock wall piece. Obviously the smooth part of the dock wall would go to the bottom as per the concrete foundation of the building itself. And well, it actually fits like it was supposed to go like that. It fits pretty well. Still, I'll have to use on the back when I flip it over, I'll still have to use a piece of styrene on here to kind of bridge the little gap to keep it nice and strong so it doesn't waver or actually come apart. But I'm going to go ahead and file it first. I just have an old rasp file. No, not this one. I'll file this one. Yeah, it looks really good right there. Alright, so I'll go ahead and put that together how I think it should go. The hard part will probably be getting the front straight while I have it pushed down, face down. I won't be able to see the front. So what I like to do is I like to put a little bit of glue on there and kind of hold it together lightly. I know it might twist and break, but at least I know I can get a piece of styrene on the back to kind of hold it, you know, firm so it doesn't break off completely. I have a old piece of I think it's a roof piece from an old Walthers kit. I could be wrong though. But I have that ready to go. Make sure I have a nice clean area. Put just a little bit of glue. A little glue goes a long way. If you use too much, it'll take too long to glue, and then you know that you've used too much. Especially with CA. More is less, in other words. It's not like weathering. You don't want a whole bunch of layers. I always like to wipe off the excess. Okay, so there it is. As you can see, it looks pretty darn good. Not perfect, but don't need it perfect. Now that it's starting to dry, obviously because I was able to hold it up without it falling apart, I'm going to put some glue on it right now before I go too far and actually put this bridge gap piece on there, and you know, just to strengthen it up so it doesn't come apart later on down the road when I'm adding details and weathering and stuff like that to it, as that would be a bummer, just have it come apart. When buildings are not actually designed to go a certain way and you have to modify them like I did just now, they tend to be a little weak. They tend to have gaps in them. Nothing that squadron putty or wall and joint compound or something like that can't take care of. If it's a large area, a large hole, I like to use squadron putty. If it's smaller, I like to use a wall and joint compound because it's cleaner and easier to clean up. Yeah, there's almost one wall down. I need to actually modify this piece here on the end to go back in the other direction. And when I say the other direction, I mean they have it so it's supposed to go like this. I need to make it so it goes like this. So I have to cut off that funky little flap right here on the top. I have to cut that off flush. So I'll go ahead and do that. I should probably change my blade out on my X-Acto, but I got it nonetheless. I'll file this off here. Now this one is going to look a little awkward because of the direction it was supposed to go in. As you can see, I cut off flush the little tab that was on the top there. This one is actually designed to go a certain way, so what I like to do with this is take a piece of styrene that has been pre-measured by the factory, so it has a perfect square edge. I will cut that off in a triangular shape, and that will be my perfect square edge to corner the two pieces together, like so. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is fit the two pieces up, see how they look. Actually, I think I can glue that right there and get away with it. And then I'll have to add this the perfect square corner piece in. And I say perfect because it's from the factory. It's not because it's wonderful or anything. It's perfect because it has two factory edges on it. Not like the edges that I would cut with a pair of scissors. You can tell they're not, like this one here has been cut with scissors, and you can tell it's not straight. So that's not a perfect factory edge. So I wouldn't use that for a corner. Alright, so I'm going to put the two pieces together. This is obviously not going to hold real well, but if I can get it to hold enough to where I can set it down on the table and then use my factory edge to put the corner piece in, I can glue it, and then it will be sturdy enough to move around. So I set it down, take my factory corner edge piece, use it to align the edges, and I noticed that right here on the tip of this one, if I can get it to zoom in, there is a little bump that sticks up. You can see it right there. That little bump is going to stop this from going perfect square, perfect bend. So I have to shave that off, make sure there's not one on the other side. There isn't. So I'm going to add some glue to the straight edges. Not a lot of glue, I just want it to barely to get wet. If you have glue on there that's going to drip off, coming from CA, it's not going to hold very well, and it's going to take twice as long to dry, which means you're going to be holding it forever. Just use a little bit of glue and bam, it's already on there. You'll have to excuse me, I have some bad allergy problems going on right now. I had an allergic reaction to my allergy medication this year. Ended up in the hospital, so yeah. Never happened before, 10 years, and all of a sudden 1 year my body said, I don't like that stuff. But anyway, back to the project. What I want to do is cut out another factory edge. And you notice in the corners of the building, let's show you on this one. This will be the top. In the corner of the building, usually there will be a little lip right here, a lot like this one, and that little lip will actually house the roof. When you're putting in the factory edge, the factory corner pieces, if you're kit bashing, you want to go below that so it doesn't interfere with your roof later on when you go to put it on. This one, this kit, actually the roof it sits right on top of the building. It doesn't actually lay down inside, so it's not really a big deal. But I just thought I'd share that little tip. I've done that before and had to go over pieces and under pieces, and yeah, it doesn't look very good. Okay, so I'm going to clean off the little beveled piece here. A lot of you may be thinking, why aren't you using a chop cutter for cutting off the edges, or why aren't you using your X-Acto knife? Scissors work just as good. They're just as fast. I don't have to have this as a straight piece here, and it'll never actually be seen by visitors when they come to look at the layout. So it's not really like it's a huge deal. Alright, now let's see. I want to do this the right way. So this wall has to be attached there. There's my man door. That's actually the only man door entrance on this whole building. But, you know, it's okay. I don't mind. Now, the little people won't mind. They're not going to be moving anyway. But I'll go ahead and do the same thing to this wall, like I just did to this one. And then I'll come right back and you can see how that came out. Okay, so we're back. And as you can see, I turned the building around. It's sturdy enough to move on its own without having to mess with it. I put the other wall together. Looks pretty good. When I'm done putting the basic building together, which is the walls, no floor, no roof, none of that, I like to take some Q-tips, which I keep here at my bench, and some lacquer thinner, which I have in this old pill jar, and just lightly dab it in there and use it to very lightly clean off any excess glue that's on there. You don't have to do it if you're gonna, especially if you're gonna paint the building. It's not that big a deal. But let's go ahead and attach this this next wall piece here. I'll just go ahead and put a little bit of glue on it. Now I don't want to put any glue down at the bottom of the building, because when I stick it on here, the glue will run down anyway due to gravity. But if I put too much on, it'll go down and it'll actually stick to the mat, which it usually does anyway. But yeah, it's a mat. Who cares? We can get a new one. So I got just a little bit of glue on there, not too much. The building's going to be racked naturally. I'm not going to be able to hold it square with my bare hand. Good thing it's made out of plastic instead of real brick, because I can actually bend it and make it go the direction I want it to go. So I got the, it's basically a light hold on that. I've got the other angle corner piece that I cut off of the styrene, leftover piece. I'm going to use that to put in the corner. Again, I want to use the factory edge and not a whole lot of glue, because less is more. It may look like I'm gluing this a lot, but I'm watching very carefully how much glue is actually coming out. Okay, I'm going to just stick that piece in there. When this factory corner piece goes in there, it'll kind of push the building out the way it's supposed to go, and then you'll know, you know, if you have to bend it out or bend it in to make it fit. And there, that's it. So now the only thing to do is add the last wall, and it actually has slot and groove, and I'm actually following the directions on this part, so it should go together flawlessly. Yeah, right. But you know, it is what it is. We can fill in gaps later. But there's the basic outline of the building. Now, when I add the roof, since I wanted to modify the building, make it a little shorter this way but wider this way, the roof is only going to come to here. So this section down here will have to be covered with something else. Or I may be able to modify it and use the two leftover pieces to fill it in. I don't know. If I have to estimate, I would say that it's not going to be enough. But that's okay. I don't mind if it's not, because I have a lot of styrene sitting around and I can just use something else to fill it in. So I'm going to glue this last wall on, and then I'm going to show you what I do next. Okay, the more I thought about it, the more I thought, you know, I might as well just show this part, you know, because this could be important. Usually when you get done with a structure, if you're not building it on a flat surface, and one corner will be up off the ground, or they're always going to be a little crookedness in there. I leave it flat. Well, I'm going to leave this one flat. And just put a bead of glue up here on the top a little bit, like 3/4 of the way down. I don't want to go all the way down because the gravity of the glue will make it run down anyway. So I'll just stick it together like it goes. Try not to glue my fingers to it. Use something heavy to prop it up if I need to, which I do. I have some pill jars that I use as paint jars. Those come in handy. So after this is done drying, I'm going to show you what I do next, which is the painting step. And I know for a lot of you, you might be thinking, Dave, why don't you paint it in sections, and then, you know, it's easier to paint the windows and the doors. I used to do that, and you know, for the most part it works out sometimes, but on the corners you always have to fix it again anyway. So when I do it, I usually do it like this, and that way I can get the filler putty in all the corners and make sure everything is straight and flush and ready to go. That way when I paint, if I decide to add spray paint or an airbrush paint or even dry brush painting, it's going to adhere to the building pretty well and be very quick, because this one I'm speeding up. Well, most of them I speed up. I don't do a lot of detailing on the videos, but I do have detailing kits such as roof vents and stuff like that. I do build a lot of scratch built stuff, but you know, for some of it I buy, some of it I scratch build, and I like to go pretty quick on the structures. So when we come back, I will show you how I start the painting process, and that will probably be in part 3. So take care and have a nice day.